Dear guests, welcome to the final session of Oslo Pax 2019, Taking Back the Future. First, it is an honor to introduce to you the chair of the Wanjira Mathai Foundation, Wanjira Mathai.
Good afternoon. First of all, please accept my apologies for not being able to be with you today, as I had hoped. My father was committed to the intensive care just 2 days ago. He'd been in hospital, but his health has taken a turn for the worse, and I felt that I needed to be here with my family. And I know that you will understand. But know that I am with you in spirit. Allow me to congratulate the Nobel Peace Center for hosting this first ever Oslo Pax annual gathering. It is the beginning of a movement that I cannot wait to see bloom. And it will allow, perhaps for the very first time, the voices of youth to be amplified and heard at the UN Climate Summit in September. You know, so often you hear people saying that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. And tomorrow just seems so far away, such a distant future. But I'm happy to hear that there's so many of you there who are poised and ready to take on this future. Because quite frankly, the future is now. I hope you've enjoyed the sessions that have been going on in the course of the 2 days, and that you will leave with a friend or two and feeling the solidarity of this movement that is starting right here in Oslo. There's probably no better time to listen to the voices of youth than today, and to genuinely bring them into the decision rooms and to the decision tables, because it is your time. In Kenya today, 80% of our population is under the age of 35. And by 2050, more than half of Africa's population will be under the age of 25. Africa will have the youngest population in the world. And this is probably not so different in some of your countries, represented here in this room. Together you are a force, and I hope that you will unleash that force starting this September. I'm especially inspired by one Greta Thunberg from Sweden, whose words during her recent TED Talk inspired me greatly. She said everyone keeps saying that climate change is an existential threat, and yet they just carry on like before. I don't understand it, because if climate change is caused by emissions and these emissions have to stop, then we must stop the emissions. To me, it's black and white. I love that thinking, because many of our leaders dwell in the gray areas. But I thank God and the goodness of this planet that young people often see things in the most basic, purest form, black and white. We must actually do that if we're going to change this world and address the challenges before us. We must understand the root causes and not get distracted by the enormity of the challenges before us. That was a wonderful lesson that I learned from my mother, and I learned it especially through the work that she did. She was a 2004 Nobel Peace Prize winner, Wangari Mathai. She talked a lot about the power of each of us to be potent agents of change, that we must be patient, committed, and persistent in the pursuit for justice, including climate justice. And she demonstrated this beautifully using a story she called the hummingbird story. It was about a little bird that worked so hard to try and put off a forest fires, never being distracted by the challenges of other animals that were bigger than it and sitting in the side. It worked hard to put out that fire, bringing a drop from a closed river every time. It turned to these animals when they tried to distract it and says, I'm doing the best I can. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what each of us must do. Enjoy the closing session, and always remember to be like the hummingbird, patient, committed, and persistent. and doing the very best you can. Thank you for being here this week, and I hope to see you next year. Thank you very much.